Hi, my name is Stephen Kirsting, and in this video we're going to address some concerns with this issue submitted by Tracy. When Tracy first submitted this image, she expressed some concerns about this tall foliage on the left side of the image, and rightly so, I would say, because it is from the top almost completely to the bottom. It essentially becomes a vertical dividing line to the image. It defines the left side of this image. Even though there's space to the left of that branch, there's nothing really there to draw attention. So it's basically separate visually, aesthetically. So what we're going to do here is we're going to address that. We're going to move it. And to do that, I'm going to use the lasso tool here. Now there's several options under the lasso tool, and the shortcut is L. And if you hold shift and hit L, it'll cycle through these. Now the first one I use frequently for quick sloppy edits because it self-completes. Whenever I let off the mouse, it automatically fills in. But that doesn't give me the amount of control I'm going to need for this here. So what I prefer to use is the polygon lasso tool. And I have the feather up here set to 0 pixels because I'm going to have to go very close in between there. So I don't want a feather. I'll have to deal with a hard edge this cutout creates later. So use the polygon tool. It's kind of like using the pen tool. It allows me more accuracy. I can draw straight lines, keep them as close as I can or as I want. But the neat thing with the polygon lasso is if I click and hold the Alt button, you can see it changes to the regular lasso tool, and I can quickly draw wherever I want. But when I let off, it reverts to the regular polygon lasso tool. It doesn't autocomplete, so that gives me some more flexibility. So I can kind of come in here very carefully and quickly draw my selection. And then we'll revert. And then we will cut this out. And you can go under Edit, Cut, and Paste, but there's shortcuts. Command X, Command V. That's what I'm going to use. Command X cuts it out. Command V pastes it on top into its own layer, which is where I want it. Alright, the next thing we need to address with this cutout is to get rid of the background, because I want to overlay the existing remaining portion of treetop. So to do that, because we've got good color separation and tonal separation, this should be an easy selection with Magic Wand. So we're just going to get the Magic Wand. I've got the tolerance set to 20. I'll click on here, and I also have contiguous deselected, so it automatically selected the areas in there by themselves. I'm going to turn off the background layer so we can see exactly what we've got going here. I'm going to go into select and mask, and it's showing my edges of what's selected. It's a little sloppy there. It's not got enough covered there, and these cutouts can be pretty harsh. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a little feather to this, and I'm going to expand it so that it's going to include, actually let's make it a little smaller, so it's cutting into the edge of the leaf just a little bit. That's going to make the edge of the leaf and ensure I get rid of most of the background. And it's outputting to a selection, which is what I want. Turn this back on, and then we're going to mask that off. So using the mask here, if I just click on that mask, it's going to show what is selected. If I hold down Alt or Option and click on the mask, it's going to hide what is selected, and that's what I want. So the next thing we need to do here is move this into position. Now there's the Move tool here, but I prefer Transform. It's under Edit, transform, free transform, is Command T. So that's what I'm going to use, Command T, because that allows me not only to drag it to where I want, but it also allows me to rotate it. So what I'm looking for here is a pleasant overlap between the existing foliage in the background and the new foliage here. I'm going to move this down a little bit. About like that, I think. Looks good. And I can also right click and select all these other different forms of transforming, or I can hold Command or Control and click on a single point and warp it, scale it, skew it that way. So I prefer the transform tool. That looks about good to me. So we're going to place that there. And then we're going to fill in this hard cutout where there's no background. So to do that, I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to move it to the back. And because it's transparent, I'm going to make it white to start with. Now, Command Delete will turn it to the background color, which is white here. So we're going to use Command Delete, and that fills it in with white. And now I'm going to use the paintbrush. You could use a clone tool, clone stamp, or whatever else, but I'm just going to use a brush. And I'm going to fill this in by sampling the colors. So first thing I want to do is I want to set my flow rather low. You can use the drop down box. You can use left and right. Just click on the word flow and drag it left to right. Or you can just hit shift and a number. If you hit one number, it goes in tens, or I could hit two numbers and fill in the complete percentage. I normally just hit tenths and jump around 20, 30, 40, but I want to keep it low because what I want to do is select a color, but paste it in varying densities so it stays a little ununiform like the rest of the background is. Right, so to do that, I'm going to use Alt to select a color. I'm going to pick a darker color, set to sample all layers, and that is actually, that setting's up here under the dropper tool. It's all layers, because if I don't have it set to all layers, then it's going to only choose the layers on, which is white. I would just get white. So switch back to the brush, which is B for brush, and then I'm going to set the brush size. Now, brush size and hardness settings are up here, but I prefer to use a keyboard shortcut, Command Option on a Mac, or it is Alt and right click on Windows machines. So Control Option and click and drag up and down, makes hardness, left and right makes size. I'm going to set a large brush, very soft, at a low flow, and select a dark green color. And I'm just going to start painting this in. And I'm going to use multiple clicks, multiple attempts. And I'm going to kind of paint it till it looks like the edge is kind of faded and less obvious. And I can always go over here and sample a different color, change it up a little bit. Pick something a little darker. And this is the reason I put it behind, is so that I don't have to worry about painting over my foreground images. Alright, I'm going to bump up the opacity, do this a little quicker. The flow, so it builds quicker. some stuff in here. That's not blending as well as I'd like. It's not a big deal. Alright, we get a little bit of lighter color here. I'm just going to splash it in places here, there. And then let's go in and fix that masking in there. You'll notice my brush color changed automatically to black. Make my brush small, enlarge the picture. We'll get rid of that there. I'll switch colors, make sure I didn't take that edge out. Alright, that looks pretty good. And the last thing we need to do is blend our new background into the old background. Because of the hard cutouts and because my new background's in back, so I'm going to apply a mask on top of the original image, and I'm going to use black with a low flow, and I'm going to just paint these edges away. And that's part of the reason why I made sure I painted outside or beyond the cutout on my background layer. My new background is much larger than the area I'm filling. And just finish blending that in. Looks like maybe a little bit in here. Oh, darn it, I'm on the wrong thing. Let's go back to my history. Right in there. I'm just going to finish blending that in. And maybe add a little bit of color here to get that blended in a little nicer in a couple spots. Something like that. Alright, so there's our new background selection. And the last thing I want to do is address the composition a little bit. And to do that, I'm going to flatten these layers. And I'm going to select all of them by holding Shift, Command E to flatten them, or I can undo that and hit Shift Option Command E, sorry, and then I'll create a new layer out of all of the previous layers. And the reason I'm doing this is when I do the crop, I want to use content aware fill to add in the background that I'm going to need. And it's not too hard to add background, as we've already done, but if it'll do it for me and do a good job, I'll give it a chance. But it's only going to use the layer it's on to fill the background, so I need to have a composite of everything. So I'm going to drag this to the right to give a little more background down here on the edge, and then I'm going to drag it to the upper left to kind of get the head closer to the rule of third, and I'm looking for a closer to equal spacing between the bird and the two adjacent edges for some reason that always looks best to me. So we'll go ahead and hit enter. Oh, let's do that again. This time, let's make sure we enable content aware before we hit enter. Enable the content aware, hit enter, and see what we get. Alright, there you go. That works pretty well. Now it's a little blotchy in some areas where it's added the fill, and we can address that with a brush if we want to. Still have the green, so I set that to low flow opacity and kind of blend those in manually. Touch those up. Whatever works for you. You can spend more time on it if you want, or you could even possibly select the background using the wand and applying a blur to it. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur, Command B in my case. Apply a little blur to it to help smooth it out, or add noise if you've got banding, whatever you want to do. But undo the blur. Best bet there is to select the background, cut it out. Shift Command I is going to select the foreground, and Command X, Command V, paste it in. Command T to place it back where it belongs. I don't know why it didn't go where it should. And just shift it around a little bit. Out there, and then the key here is to go in, fill the background. Let's turn that up to about 60. We'll fill the background in. Because what it'll do is it will blur the clear areas as well, expand those, and we don't want that to show. Then we'll apply our blur. We can make it significant, however significant we want it. Apply it, turn our bird back on, and now we've got a completely smooth background, perhaps too smooth. Somewhere in there, whatever suits your taste. So we've gone from this image corrected to this image, from this image as originally posted to this image. I hope that helps you, and until next time, my name is Stephen Kirsting, and I hope you have a great day.